Hi everyone, my name is Umair Usman and I am the cognitive consultant. I help people manage their weight, their anxiety and improve their performance. Today I'm going to talk about sports hypnosis. Now I don't mean using hypnosis for sports, but I'm talking about a very particular technique developed by a Swedish researcher named Lars-Eric, which he called sports hypnosis back in the 70s. And the idea of sports hypnosis is to able to induce basically the flow state. Now we all know what the flow state is. Flow state is it's a mental state that we have all experienced from time to time, where we enter a stage, a period, a time when we're doing a task and it seems effortless. When we are doing a task, trying to complete a task, and it seems it's happening automatically and it happens perfectly. In sports psychology, it is usually called flow or being in the zone. When everything seems and feels effortless, it feels like you're in a different state of mind. And usually people become very productive and successful while experiencing this flow state. And this flow state usually comes up without any, it comes up randomly in life. Usually people do not know what is the way to induce this flow state. Sometimes we have it, sometimes we do not. And as sports people know, they have their on days and off days. And sometimes when they're in a flow, they can have phenomenal results, but they don't know how to replicate it. So Lars-Eric conducted a lot of research and he figured out one thing. He figured out that he can increase the frequency of flow state in sports people. However, there were two different ways for two different kinds of sports. First is the endurance sports. Endurance sports like marathon running, long duration running, do not require any kind of trigger. The very act of heavy cardiovascular exercise is enough to get a sportsman into the flow state. It is easy to get into the flow state when you're doing that kind of activity for a long period of time. In fact, Lars-Eric went on to argue that what we call the runner's high is actually inducing the flow state. And of course, there are chemical processes there that are going on in the body to make sure it happens. So just like when we're doing hypnosis, regular hypnosis, and we want to relax, when we're doing this kind of sports hypnosis, the idea is to get into that high cardiovascular activity, which can help you get into that flow state. Of course, prior training, mental training is required for that as well. Coming to this other kind. So for sports that are short, like 100-meter race, or that require activity in intervals, like golf, triggers are better. Now, this is a very interesting point because according to a book, I forgot the name of the book, it's a book on improving your golf game through hypnosis. The author also used to speak about triggers. And here too, Lars-Eric says that if you're talking about these kind of activities where physical activity comes in bursts and the duration is very short, we don't have time to induce that flow state, that high. You would need to use triggers. And of course, the way to anchor these triggers is to go through a proper self-hypnosis training. With sports hypnosis, obviously, to do both of these things, one would have to train with these sportsmen for months at a time, and that is what Lars-Eric did, and he got phenomenal results from them. He worked with the Swedish Olympic team and many other sports teams in Sweden and got phenomenal results. This research itself, the study itself, is decades old, and I am surprised that this has not made it to the wider audience, because in this paper, the paper is called Alert Eyes Open Sports Hypnosis by Lars-Eric. He talks about the applicability of generalizing this idea, generalizing this insight that flow state can be induced. However, it has still not become commonplace. However, with hypnosis, it can. Another very interesting finding revealed in this paper was that we know different people are susceptible to hypnosis in a different way, to a different degree. Through proper months of training, you can increase your susceptibility. And the idea is that you can get better, you can become a better hypnotic subject the more you train. And this is very important. Because for a sportsman, they have to improve everything quantitatively. And you can do that with hypnosis. You can even improve how you respond to hypnosis over time, which is fantastic, I think. It's like it almost becomes a learned skill. Going into hypnosis and benefiting from hypnosis becomes a learned skill. And I think these are very important insights by Lars-Eric, and it had to be shared. All right. Thank you. So that was from me today. I'm Usman, the cognitive consultant, and I will see you next time.